Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Good to be here.
Today, we're digging into President Trump's reflections on his first 100 days back in office.
Right, specifically through that ABC News interview Terry Moran did with him in the Oval Office.
Exactly. Our goal is basically to unpack what he highlighted, his priorities as he saw them at that milestone.
And the setting itself is quite telling, isn't it? He chose the Resolute desk.
The Reagan and FDR desk.
And surrounded himself with portraits. Reagan, FDR, Lincoln, Washington, even Monroe.
He explained those choices too, right? Something about Reagan being larger.
Yeah, and FDR being a serious president, the Monroe Doctrine connection, Lincoln and Washington for obvious historical weight, and the Declaration of Independence nearby as a symbol of unity.
Interesting. He also apparently made a point about the office itself.
Oh, yeah. Emphasize keeping it clean, beautified, a sort of orderliness theme, maybe?
Okay, so setting the stage. But what did he say was the most significant thing in those first 100 days?
Border security, straight up.
No hesitation.
None reported in the transcript. He talked about prisons, mental institutions emptying out, gang members, murderers coming in.
Strong language.
Very. And then he claimed the result was essentially closing the border. Said it was a 99.9% reduction announced like the day before the interview.
Wow. Okay, so that was priority number one, front and center.
Absolutely. It fits his long-standing focus, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears. The economy. Moran asked about the China trade war.
Yeah, brought up economists predicting higher costs for families and this idea that some voters felt, they didn't sign up for this.
How did Trump respond to that? The voters didn't sign up, report.
He pushed it back hard, said they did sign up for it, that it was a clear campaign promise.
Oh, yeah.
And he framed it as fixing a broken system, talking about losing, $3 to $5 billion a day in past trade deficits. He argued it had to be done to avoid an implosion.
So a necessary, if tough, measure in his view.
Exactly. Then they got into tariffs and inflation. This is where it gets really interesting. Well, President Trump claimed his first term saw a tremendous economy with tremendous numbers of tariffs, but no inflation.
He directly linked tariffs and low inflation, or rather denied a link between tariffs and high inflation.
He flat out disputed the idea that tariffs raise prices, pointed to his first term's low inflation despite China tariffs.
And contrasted that with what happened after.
Right, contrasted it in his telling with inflation taking off after President Biden took office.
Which challenges the standard economic textbook view, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. Most economists would argue tariffs as taxes on imports generally do push up costs, at least somewhere along the line.
For businesses, for consumers, potentially.
Potentially, yes.
Oh.
So his perspective suggests either a different economic mechanism at play or that maybe other factors just kept inflation down back then.
Did Moran follow up on that? Because Trump had promised to bring prices down fast, like day one.
He did. Moran asked how the tariffs fit with that promise.
And the answer?
According to the transcript, President Trump just sort of reiterated that prices have come down.
Just stated it as fact.
Yeah. Which highlights a potential gap, right, between that statement and maybe how broader economic data or people's everyday experiences are tracking.
Okay, so let's quickly summarize what we've covered in this deep dive.
Sure.
President Trump flags border security, and that claimed 99.9% reduction in crossings as the top achievement of the first 100 days.
Right. And on trade, he defends the tariffs and the confrontation with China as fulfilling a mandate, something necessary to fix imbalances.
And crucially, he argues these tariffs didn't cause inflation in his first term, disputes they raise prices generally, and maintains prices have decreased recently.
It's a very clear narrative from his perspective.
Which brings us to the final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, thinking about all this, economic indicators are complex. Border situations have many facets. So beyond the president's assessment here, what other metrics, what different perspectives or data points might give us a perhaps fuller picture of how these policies are actually playing out?
Something to consider. That's all for this Team